Thank you, thank you. Happy to be here. We finally found the time with our non-overlapping time zones.
Yes, exactly. I really appreciate it. And yeah, especially knowing that you have a family and you're trying to squeeze me in. Thank you so much for that. But I wanted to start with maybe let's kick off with, an overview of what it is that Citizen X does.
Yeah. So very quickly, 6 years ago, out of my own passion and out of me just constantly shit posting to Bitcoiners on Twitter, telling that everybody needs a second passport, I basically realized that over time I gained expertise and I gained following, and people wanted to come to me and ask for a product which I didn't have at the time. So out of this passion, was born Plan B Passport. And then I was running this business for a while, and just this year, early this year, I was acquired by CitizenX, which was my probably closest competitor at the time, at least in terms of the our beliefs and our principles in this industry. So now I'm a CMO of CitizenX, where we help people all over the world to obtain second citizenship. We basically see citizenship as an asset class, a new asset class, and of course, as a hedge against government overreach, your emergency plan in terms of like in case of a civil unrest or any sort of crisis. So that's what we help people do. We help them to obtain second citizenship or residency for their benefit.
Awesome. And I'd love to, before we get into, the work that you do, I'd love to know more about your history and your early life. So born and bred in Russia.
Yeah, yeah, born and raised there. All the experiences that I had in my, I would say even childhood, kind of led me to be a Bitcoiner. Since I was, so when I was 9, I started sailing, and this hobby got out of hands. By the age of 11, I got into Russian national team. So I started traveling the world with the team, all paid by Russian government, like I'm on a national team, I'm being invited to Europe for European Cup, and my visa is getting denied. And because I'm Russian, I have a very weak passport in terms of visa free travel. I need to constantly obtain visas. I'm constantly getting denied in these visas, which is really weird because I'm like a teenager traveling with a coach and an entire national team, and somehow I'm the one getting rejected in visas constantly. So I don't know. I was chosen to do this work early on, and then the same experiences in the world of finance, of like seeing the currency, my national currency, devalue over time so significantly, like two hyperinflations in my lifetime by the age of 25. Like something is off. And all these experiences basically led me to become a Bitcoiner and to become a passport lady. So yeah, it was meant to be. I just needed to learn enough about both of those concepts in order for it to click. And it clicked pretty quickly because again, I was I was prepared for all that. I was I was black pilled on the financial system early on.
Yeah, and that's kind of also been my experience as well throughout life. People who come from countries with, political unrest and have experienced things like hyperinflation, it kind of instills a sense of fragility in the system from a very young age. And yeah, even though I was, not responsible for the family money at the time, I do vividly remember going to the shop with like $1 million notes to buy bread, and then the next month, it wasn't enough, and we
Yeah.
had to use, I think, the German currency as a store of value, so people would sort of exchange that. That was the closest currency to us, regionally. Did Russia use like a different currency as well as a store of value?
I mean, we were under the Iron Curtain, so it's not that we could have easy access to, let's say, dollars or anything like that. Um, yeah, so in a sense, like in the time of hyperinflation, people always tried to buy metal and real estate. But we were in a communism, so it's not that you could just go on a free market and randomly buy real estate. That's not how it worked. So people would just hold their fiat under the mattress, and this fiat would just literally disappear. You know what's funny? People like us, like even if you didn't experience it firsthand, you have this DNA, like it's in your DNA because your parents, your grandparents experienced it, and then they pass down those experiences. And if you look at the Bitcoin community, especially girls in the Bitcoin community, it's like you, me, Carla from Romania, Natalie from Poland, like so many girls who have Eastern European roots. And part of it is probably because, again, we have those stories that will stick with us for a few more generations until we forget, like a generational trauma that made us Bitcoiners. So yeah, that I can definitely see that.
Yeah, absolutely. That is so relatable. But yeah, more about on your business side of things. So just to give you a bit of an overview, Australia is very divided at the moment. We've got a lot of the population thinking that we are headed towards being like right wing extremists, and some people are referencing the US. Other people are thinking that we're turning towards left wing extremism and are following UK's path and are losing our national identity. And there's a lot of division. And I know Australia, similar to like America, is a very patriotic country. So seeing opinions online about this sort of thing, if someone's looking to leave Australia for another country, it can trigger some very strong emotions from people. There's a guy that I follow. He's Australian. I follow him on Instagram. I think his name is Matt Cameron. And he talks about this, like how he left Australia with his family to build a life in Indonesia because it had a lot less red tape. The taxation was much better, better quality life. You get Australian beef, which is very important for Australians there. And it was just, a good healthcare system if you can afford it privately. And I love following his posts because he will say deliberately provocative and controversial things. And I'll go to the comment section, and some people are like, "You're a hero, love what you're doing. We're thinking of doing the same." And other people are, "Good, we don't need you. If you don't take, Australia as, yeah, a country you're lucky to be here, then we don't need you." So what is the main motivation of your clients for moving?
Yeah, I'd say about 80% of my clients are not actually relocating. The majority of my clients are preparing their plan B in case things get worse. Some of them are already extremely unhappy with their home country and they want to relocate, but there are things like parents are still alive and need support, or kids are currently in school and you don't want to switch it. Like there are certain factors that keeping them where they're at, but majority of clients are still thinking that it makes sense for them to stay where they at, either for opportunities, friends, lifestyle, whatever it is, but hedging against things getting worse. And that's where the name Plan B Passport originally came from, because I didn't necessarily want to be a relocation service. I truly wanted for people to realize that you can't have all your eggs in one basket. You can't, like, I don't want the government to have monopoly over anybody, because that's what makes them capable of doing things like government overreach, because you have no optionality, you have no choices. So only 3% of people leave outside of the country they were born in. um, right now probably a little more, but that basically means your government a 97% monopoly over you. So if you lack optionality, of course, you will stick with your only option and you will withstand whatever government overreach is happening. So my original message was get yourself a second passport, a plan B passport, hedge against geopolitical unrest, civil unrest in your country, etc. But then also COVID hit, right? And that's when people were like, okay, let's see how our country is gonna go through COVID, which Australia didn't do that well, that great of a job. And I've seen a huge wave of Australians being unhappy with how the country handled it. And that also made people realize that a lot more of their life is actually remote than they thought. And that's when relocation became a bigger thing in the world, and people started to consider places like Latin America as their first choice. Or Indonesia became huge, right? Because you can afford a very solid lifestyle for much less. Yes, sometimes it takes effort and it takes time to build out this lifestyle, but it's very doable. And then on top of it, you kind of you can optimize based on the jurisdiction you choose. You can optimize your taxes, you can optimize the healthcare you receive, you can optimize for the community you're a part of, and then the lifestyle. So people started executing on their relocation as well, but the majority is still just getting a Plan B passport in case the Western world or whatever first world countries are moving in a direction that you're uncomfortable with.
Yeah. And I remember you saying in different podcasts that you believe that, in time, long term, that countries will start competing for their citizens and they will try to actively make things more favorable for, people to relocate to their country because of their policies and their laws and their taxation or whatnot. But do you see the transition there being potentially things getting worse before they get better? Like, I keep hearing news of different countries trying to implement like citizenship based tax, and it's like just really like locking down the border. What do you think is going to happen kind of over the next 10 years?
So yeah, the immigration policies of the world will kind of get weird for a while. I could see that happening. So just to give you an example that is relatable to you, Australia has always been a very desirable place for immigration, right? I think it's like in the top four of professional immigration, meaning that highly skilled professionals are seeking opportunities through legal immigration in Australia, and Australia importing lots of talent, which talent it's a big reason for immigration. That's why the cool countries want to stay cool to attract the talent. Well, then we can see an example with the UK, which was also a very desirable immigration place to the extent that everybody was flooding there, and then they kind of weakened down their immigration policies, and now the rich are leaving. So at some point, if you open up the borders too much, the local citizens who actually do contribute the giant tax and who are bringing jobs and who are bringing lots of value, at least in a monetary sense, they start leaving. So before we get to the point where it's truly a free market, pay to play, and by pay to play, I don't only mean financially, but with your talent too, like merit based immigration, it will have to get weird at some jurisdictions because we are still experimenting in what it's like. Because what only the last 40 years immigration was actually that possible. Before that, like we do a lot of citizenship by descent, so we see like ship manifests, and I'm realizing this people spent 35 days on a ship to immigrate to the United States. So like it wasn't as easy as getting on a plane and going places and getting a remote job or finding it online. So the historically things are changing very quickly right now compared to what it was before, and it definitely gets weird and gets interesting to me, just because that's what I live and breathe. So I'm a huge fan of investment-based migration because it's truly a free market competition, free market capitalism of nation states where people are willing to bring their capital or donate to the country in order to become a citizen or resident. That's just monetary exchange is always the easiest transaction, right? I pay, I get. That's the simplest exchange there is. And then there is a merit-based immigration, which is that's how I immigrated to the United States. I was a professional athlete. The United States thought that I was good enough to compete for America, and they gave me green card. So then we have a skill-based immigration, merit-based immigration, and then we have lots of other things such as let's say, political asylums. And then that gets weird because who are the judges? What geopolitical opinion is your country currently in? And the good example of that would be El Salvador. El Salvador has 6 million people living in the country, and 3 million Salvadorans living in the United States. Because over the last 40 years, there was a civil war in the country, and they all fled the country because it was dangerous. And the United States said, okay, come on in, political asylum case. Well, now the country has become one of the safest countries in the Western Hemisphere.
Mm.
And how are these cases going to be judged now? The things have changed so significantly, but those people lived here for 20 years. This is their home country now, although not on paper. So, like, the geopolitics changes the whole game of political asylum. And then the countries misalign on their directions, or they align back on their directions. And like lots of Russians could get political asylum in the US. Well, kind of not anymore.
Mm.
That just depends on what's happening. So that's always a dangerous play, and like not the ideal scenario, basically never an ideal scenario. And it also being overly used because, like, were you actually in danger there, or did you just want a better life? And that's who are the judges again.
Yeah, absolutely. Seems like you're having to play geopolitical chess.
Yeah.
um, yeah, but do you do citizenships and residencies?
Yeah, so our core business is definitely citizenship by investment. And I truly believe that in the next 10 years, more and more countries will keep offering citizenship through investment programs because, again, that's the simplest transaction, simplest value exchange, money for being able to call yourself a citizen. And the United States just launched their Trump card, which, the United States is still one of the great leaders of showing the world what's acceptable. So once they launch the Trump card, it's kind of like a green light for many small nations to say that's fine. You can sell your citizenship because we do. And Trump Card is a residency program, like residency through investment with a path to citizenship. So that's also a product on the market. Some nations offer golden visa, which is usually investment-based path to residency, and then path to naturalization to become citizen. And then on top of it, there are lots of cheaper immigration options, right? So the reason citizenship by investment and residency by investments are so valuable, because again, you don't want to deal with years of bureaucracy, with years of being required to live in the country full time, with months of not being able to leave the country because you're going through immigration process. You truly just want to simplify it to a transaction and get it done. Well, if you're just looking for relocation and you moving with your family to live full time, there are nearly free programs, especially when you're coming from a first world country. If you can show a solid salary coming from Australia, you will be most likely welcome on a financial solvency residency program almost anywhere in Latin America. A lot of European countries will give you digital nomad visa because you have this external income coming from your home country. So that's pretty easy. The problem is, will it ever lead you to citizenship? Not everywhere. It's a lot of paperwork. You're in a constant bureaucratic process, but it's a good tool for many. So yeah, we offer all of these. We just don't offer all the countries because our audience is not interested in all the countries. And I see some other firms, they will be offering completely like 180 degrees from what we offer. For example, Australia has a startup immigration path. New Zealand does too, investor path. And in 6 years of running the business, I remember maybe one client coming to me and saying, I would be interested in moving to Australia, maybe two. So for me, it's a different type of audience. Lots of Australians seeking a Plan B passport right now.
Yeah, that's interesting. So, yeah, just to recap what you said, there's more Australians wanting to leave Australia than come here.
In my audience, definitely, yes. Yeah.
Yeah,
And I
interesting.
understand that Australia is still a very desirable place for immigration, but within my audience, I see lots and lots of Australians moving elsewhere. And I just spent 6 weeks in El Salvador,
Yeah.
and I feel like I've met the most amount of expats that I've met in El Salvador were Australians.
Yeah. Yeah,
Yeah.
I can completely understand why that would be the case. While you were there, did you try the beef from Beef Back Better?
I bought like I reached out to them 2 weeks ahead of my time landing in El Salvador because I was like, I need a grass-fed beef for my family. That's like the core of our diet for the family. So I landed on Saturday morning. Sunday morning, I came to the farmer's market and picked up like 40 pounds of beef from the guys. So yeah, I really appreciated that.
Nice. Yeah, that was founded by an Australian and I believe it's now sold. I don't know to whom, but yeah, that was one of the questions that we had from the community. But yeah, going back to your service, so in terms of your clientele, is the majority, I assume, high net worth individuals, or do you have some like lower to middle class income families as well that are looking to move?
So if you looked at our industry overall, it used to be for ultra high net worth individuals only. Now we have citizenship programs at $100,000 check for a family of four, which is a price of a car, right? Like a price of a higher, like, yeah, middle class sometimes family even. So a lot more people can afford that now. And Bitcoiners who are by no mean like the wealthy of the wealthy, but they stacked hard, they stacked sats, and they huddled strong, and they're capable of spending one Bitcoin on a passport like that. So I'd say it's becoming democratized, but it is also like it is a tool not for everybody. Like it doesn't make sense to spend your first $100,000 of savings on a passport because there are higher priorities in life sometimes, and you should consider that. But once you cross probably like $5 million net worth, I'd say definitely makes sense to hedge and to find yourself a Plan B passport.
Need a way to sign, verify, and secure your Bitcoin? Australia's one-stop shop for Bitcoiners has you covered. From signing devices, nodes, and backup solutions to bitaxes, decor, and apparel. Visit shopbitcoin.com.au. Yeah. So yeah, that makes a lot of sense. So how long like should a person plan in advance in terms of like the application process and the whole thing to get set up?
Usually it takes about 7 to 15 months to actually get a passport in your hands. And I would say it takes a lot of prior thinking, and that's where I step in and try to help, try to brainstorm together with them of like what are the actual attack vectors? Because I always say that the flag theory, right? This concept of limiting your dependency on any one particular state, it is a security model. And just like in every security model, you have to analyze your attack vectors, your threats, in order to optimize your security structure to your customized needs and goals. And that's the first thing we do. Like, why exactly are you doing it? What are you trying to achieve? What's your family composition? And then we know the market, so we know what the market has to offer, and then we'll tell you, okay, for your scenario, I would consider this option, and that option. They're in different, wallet size or timelines. Are you in a rush, etc.? We analyze all that and we come up with the best jurisdiction for you. And then we execute, which again usually takes between 6 to 15 months is a good estimate.
Yeah. If I was going to put my typical Australian hat on, I would say probably the attack vector or the biggest concern would be a big government. We have one of the biggest governments in the world, and we know that can lead to all sorts of weird and wonderful problems. So that would definitely be a major concern. A major requirement for Australians would be good healthcare, good beef, and small government, low regulation, reasonable taxation. So, what are some of the options that kind of fit that criteria?
Well, in today's world, I'd say El Salvador definitely matches that. You guys get your surfing there too, which is a big one. You already had the Australian guys running the beef farm right there. And then like in terms of medical system, let's say, they have a private and a public sector, which I actually really like this mix. I grew up in Russia where we had this mix too, and I hate the fully socialistic structure of medical system because then I know there's no efficiency and there's no optionality and no choices. But I also hate the medical system of the US that is run by insurance companies, because then the check is just rising by like 4x, absolutely unnecessary. If you go to Latin America, there's almost always a mixture of public and private health, and private being very high quality and high quality service also, which means that you can get an appointment tomorrow and get whatever you need done, based on how you want it done. And then your pay out of pocket will be like 10% of my copay in the United States, even so insurance covers it. So it's a very good mixture. And then there are some certain medical tourism countries like Costa Rica, Panama, Mexico. They become the centers for medical tourism, which means a very solid, good clinics coming with investment and building very solid services. And the same we're seeing in El Salvador right now. There are great dental clinics that popped up in the last 5 years, and there is demand, so the supply is coming too. So that's a good option. But almost anywhere in Latin America, the medical system would be good because the private is so affordable, especially if you have Australian salary, let's say. Now, what else did you mention? Beef. Well, Argentina,
Yes.
Paraguay, and beef back better in El Salvador. That would be the three options. But I also spent lots of time in Mexico, and I found a really good local meat shop, and I was extremely happy with my beef there. And I was eating raw beef for 4 months in a row, like fully raw, never got sick. So pretty high quality. If you search, you can find. Um, what else did you mention?
Mm,
Small
well,
governments.
yeah, I just wanted to ask you quickly on the Mexico because that is never like one of the countries that is discussed. We usually discuss Paraguay and Panama. Those two countries seem to really pop up, and El Salvador, but I feel like that wave of El Salvador was probably more popular going back 4 years ago. Now it's more
Hmm.
Panama and Paraguay that keep popping up. But Mexico is an interesting one because I think the first association most people will have in Australia with Mexico is the crime rate. There were
Health, yeah.
two Australians recently, I think a year or two ago, murdered there on a holiday. So I think that kind of might, yeah, put a lot of people off.
Yeah, and in the United States, that's what people think about the moment you say Mexico too. I spent almost a year there, was constantly traveling to Mexico, and it was in the COVID times. I felt safe, but I wasn't being stupid. So you have to watch yourself there for sure, and you don't play stupid games. But also, you're not at risk if you're not trying to run local business. You know, you're a foreigner with an online income. You're probably safe forever. Um, but yeah, Mexico has been. I feel like while many countries in Latin America are on a rise, I can't say that about Mexico. So yeah, maybe worth noticing that.
Yeah, but it's beautiful.
Yeah.
um, yeah, but yeah, just going back to the small government, low regulation, reasonable taxation, would you also say that a lot of the South American countries kind of fit that bill?
Not too many, but yeah. So Panama, I was not a fan of Panama. I always thought Panama was in bed with the US. It just didn't get me excited for a very long time. But just lately, very lately, like in the last 6 months, I'm starting to become more curious about that. So I'll definitely be watching what's happening in Panama. But yet again, I haven't been bullish this whole time. El Salvador, I'm very bullish just because I did my research very deeply. I spent so much time there, and I, with feet on the ground, I saw how the regulation changes towards the free market. They basically said, look, for 40 years we had nothing, nothing is built. We need people to come and get that done. And like as a government, we can't move that quickly. So let's open up the free market, let's let people do what they want to do. And guess what? It works. People actually come and build beautiful things. So I firsthand experienced that that like if you want to do something in El Salvador and you find a regulation that is on your way, there is a way to change it very quickly. Like you can make it happen. Like for example, home birth used to be prohibited in El Salvador, and that like changes very quickly, and people can do it now. And the midwifery is you can be a licensed midwife there and all those things. It used to be much harder. The whole medical freedom is becoming a big movement in El Salvador, and because there's demand, they are changing rapidly their policies. Obviously, same happening with Bitcoin banks right now. They made Bitcoin legal tender, and the financial institution said, look, we know that you say it's money, but the regulatory environment for banking to actually exchange dollars to Bitcoin is not friendly. So they made the Bitcoin bank law. Same going for AI. They're trying to be the most AI friendly jurisdiction. So like, Tesla, there are very few jurisdictions where you can use full self-driving in the world. And I'm a huge fan of this full self-driving. As a mom with two kids needing snacks on the back, I can just turn it at autopilot and I know that I'm safe. And like me thinking that other jurisdictions are against it blows my mind. So El Salvador did an AI policy, which is very open to new technology. So they're basic like that. I know firsthand that I experienced that. Yeah, if you want to build something and a regulation is on your way, find your way to reach the right people, and you can help to change it quickly. Um, Argentina, I'm super curious for many reasons. And yet I feel like there's so much internal drama going on that they can't change things rapidly. So I'm watching very closely. I'm very curious. Paraguay seemed to be on an interesting path too. So I'm definitely paying attention there. Yeah, let's see how that plays out.
Yeah, interesting. And the other thing as well, I'm curious, like with El Salvador, like I don't expect you to know this, but I'm not really fully across as to how long Bukele's been in office for, and for how long that would continue, and if his approval rating is still as high as it was, when he first hit the scene. Um, do you know much about that? Like,
Yeah, so he was just reelected for his second term last year, I believe. And in 2027, I believe there will be a vote to be able to approve him running for a third term. So currently it is not acceptable, but there will be a vote to allow him to do that. And they will see if that's possible or not.
yeah, that's great to know. And now I just wanted to talk to you a little bit about motherhood. So, as you can imagine, Bitcoiners in Australia, we're going through a baby boom. People are having their second, their first. A lot of people are pregnant. I'd love to know more from you in terms of what your experience as a mother and a Bitcoiner has been, and what's kind of the
Yeah. I feel like I'm definitely in the Bitcoin bubble. I moved to the United States as a 21-year-old who didn't speak the language, didn't have any connections or family here, got into Bitcoin very early on in my immigration journey. So all the friends I acquired are Bitcoiners. I have no friends that are outside of this bubble. And now we're all having kids together. Like yesterday, I went out with four of my girlfriends. We're literally all pregnant, and I'm pregnant with my third, some of them with their seconds, and yeah, our families are growing. Like we procreate very quickly. So it's really nice to have this community. Like once you go through motherhood, you truly need other moms around, and Bitcoin community definitely provides that. We have Bitcoin Moms group chat on Telegram that is pretty awesome and active. Um, I have a local community of Bitcoin moms here in Austin, Texas, and it's wonderful. It's definitely the support system many moms need, but not always get. And I definitely have that support system, and truly, truly appreciate that. We also have very similar parenting style, mothering style. Like many of us are opting out of, let's say, hospital birth, even, or like painkillers during the childbirth, and all of that is fed by the low time preference. Like if we talk about labor, I truly believe that unmedicated birth is easier on the mother, and in the moment, you don't believe that. You want every painkiller there is, but then I believe the recovery is going to be harder. The actual labor is harder on the body. Yes, you don't feel it, but you will pay that bill later. So we all choose unmedicated home birth because, again, we believe that low time preference, this is what's better for me and for the baby. So the similar choices come from similar principles that are also fed by Bitcoin. And that's been convenient and comfortable to be able to talk about these things with other mothers. And then we all notice that our diets are literally the same. Like in the group chat we just discussed, I say, well, my kids really love rice. And in order to like feel better about giving them rice, I just boil it in a bone broth. And I said it in a group chat, and like every mother was like, me too, me too. We never discussed it, but because we're on a similar diet, we do the same things for our kids. So it's almost funny how similarly we think.
Yeah, that's a great tip. But the group that you mentioned on Telegram, is that like an open global group for mums, or is it more localized and
That one is definitely open. I created it because I like there was a big baby boom on Twitter. And I was like, man, everybody's having babies. And I was at the time, I think pregnant was my second. And I just invited all the moms into the Telegram group chat. So if anybody wants an invite, you guys are welcome. Just reach out to my DMs on Twitter.
I'm sure you're going to get a few requests there. Before we wrap up, Katie, is there anything else you want to say?
Well, one thing that I feel is very important in the flag theory world that has not been discussed is the tribe. And again, just like I discussed how important it was for me to find other Bitcoin moms with similar principles, this is the thing that shouldn't be overlooked when you're relocating, right? You're moving to a different jurisdiction. There are reasons you're moving there. And if you have a community of people who think the same, it will be very easy for you to find your new lifestyle and build your new lifestyle with the tips of those that think similarly. So that's why I believe El Salvador is so easy for Bitcoiners to move to, because we think similarly. Like it's only been what 4 months since El Salvador got on our radars. Yet I get there and I need my sourdough and my grass-fed beef, and Bitcoiners already built it. Because again, they knew that there would be demand for that, and they built it ahead of time for all of us to come and appreciate it. So this like this is an important thing to have the tribe, and tribe is another flag in your citizenship residency bank account, offshore trust, and the tribe to be to have something to rely on. So that's something for the Australian fellows to consider. Um, find the people that you're vibing with, and ask where they're going, and maybe that's a good place for you.
Yeah, and just the last question on El Salvador, because you're really selling it to me now. In terms of like a lot of Australians being there, are they mostly based in the capital or the beach?
Beach, well, beach mostly, I'd say.
Of course
Yeah,
we are.
yeah. I mean, it seems like you guys the most comfortable with this climate. I, as a Russian born and raised in Siberia, I I feel somehow very comfortable in a humid, beachy environment that is hot. I don't have a problem with that. But I know many Europeans do, so that's why they choose go into the mountains or go into the city because it's less humid and kind of a little cooler. But yeah, fellow Australians don't mind the humidity and they hang out at the Bitcoin Beach. And Bitcoin Beach is the mind-blowing place, truly. Like, I'm on the beach buying a coconut from a 60-year-old lady for $1.50. And I have like I'm in a bathing suit. I have no cash on me, but I have my phone. And I'm like, "Will you accept Lightning?" She's like, "Sure." And she pulls out her wallet. Like, she's an elderly lady who probably lives on a very low income, who's just selling coconuts that she acquired for free in the forest on the beach. And she pulls up a wallet and like, here's the invoice, and I pay Lightning, and that's it. Mind blowing place. Everybody accepts Bitcoin there, and yeah, it's hard to believe, and it's quite pure in terms of Bitcoin maximalism. I haven't seen a single sign accepting any other currency. It's all accepting Bitcoin. So Bitcoin Beach as a circular economy, truly worth visiting just to recognize like, man, we are way further than I thought we are in this
Yeah.
Bitcoin adoption journey.
I am getting goosebumps because, yeah, Bitcoin being a medium of exchange, like hearing that that's already happening somewhere in the world, just because it's not accepted widely doesn't mean that it's not there. So that's, yeah, very inspirational story to end with. Thanks for your time, Katie.
Absolutely. Well, anytime. I really love to brainstorm with people on what jurisdiction would fill up their needs, suit their needs. So we have free consultations on our website. Just create an account, schedule a call, and we'll spend 30 minutes brainstorming on what are your goals and needs and what jurisdiction fits your vibe. So thank you.
Yep, that's awesome. I can already see a few people potentially reaching out to take that up. Yeah, thanks again.
Yeah, anytime. Well, thank you.
That's it for this week on The Honest Money Show. A big shout out again to shopbitcoin.com.au for making this episode possible. Until next week, stay smart with your money and stay decentralized.